Moves to make heading into week 10. Hit us with it.
Yeah, the first one is the biggest one, and it's to buy low on Tyrone Tracy, the Giants rookie running back. This was a player that really wasn't even expected to play in week 9 for the most part. He was in the concussion protocol. The far majority of players in the concussion protocol usually miss at least a week, and he ended up suiting up for week 9. And not only did he suit up, he had 50 total yards in the first quarter alone. It was looking like another monster game for Tyrone Tracy, who played 69% of the snaps in this game, which was the most he's played in a game with Devin Singletary this year. It led to 17 total touches compared to just 7 for Singletary, still operating as the clear back despite basically not practicing all week because of the concussion, and it only resulted in 69 scoreless yards. Believe it or not, he only had 19 total yards the final 3 quarters of this game. It was kind of wonky overall, but I think that's opened up sort of this buy low window on him. We've now seen him for these last 3 weeks with Devin Singletary back, commanding 65% of the snaps, almost 17 opportunities per game. And this is the time. Like, if there was ever a time, I know that Andrew Thomas isn't there and the offense looks in shambles and Daniel Jones doesn't look great, but if there was ever a time to buy low on an explosive running back who, like, on his own yards after contact wise can produce, and he was doing that in the first quarter of the past week, it's right now before they face the Carolina Panthers, before they face the team that allows the most rushing yards per game, gave up 215 total yards to Alvin Kamara last week. Alvin Kamara had 215 total yards last week, and he was the RB3 on the week. Like, last week was just an embarrassment of riches for all running backs. It was absolutely insane, and I think Tyrone Tracy is going to have a big bounce back performance this upcoming week. Right now is the time to buy low. The person who has him probably knows he's a good player, so you're not going to get him extremely cheap, but I do think he's a guy that you can put in some sort of package deal, a 2-for-1 for a better player in some regards. Maybe you're on a team that's struggling, you need a win, you have DK Metcalf on the bye, you have Drake London potentially missing, package a Tyrone Tracy with another talented receiver, and you can get a deal done.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, it's not always about buy low. It's about timing the buy right, and I do think this is the moment for Tyrone Tracy. Man, it's a really interesting time for him. Like you mentioned, Panthers here in week 10. They go on bye in week 11. Bucks, Cowboys, Saints, Ravens, Falcons, Colts to end the fantasy season. So a lot of really good matchups there. And yeah, look, I don't want to try to invest in the New York Giants right now. Really concerned about where that offense is. I think it's going to put a little bit of a damper on Malik Neighbors' like monster games going forward, although he's still going to be a more than usable fantasy player. But yeah, you'd imagine, like, let's take the air out of the ball. We know Daniel Jones can't play under pressure. Let's get Tyrone Tracy a lot of touches. I can see that happening going forward.
Yeah, and it's also not an offense, at least from what I've seen so far, that like the Browns earlier this year with Deshaun Watson, that they're just not getting into the red zone, that they're just not putting together like 6 to 12 play drives. Like, it's just not 3 and outs that are happening right now. Part of that is because Tracy's been playing well the past month or so of the season. So I'm not as concerned with it like on a larger scale that he's just not ever going to have touchdown opportunities or these 15 opportunity games in some sort of game script. So yeah, rest of season, I view him as a borderline top 50 overall player. In terms of running backs right now, he's around guys like Brian Robinson for me, Tony Pollard. He's in that range. So I feel pretty confident about him. I think he's a great player. The schedule, like you said, is awesome. Now's the time to get him.
All right, give us your next move to make.
Yeah, this one is to send a trade offer for Josh Jacobs, the Green Bay Packers running back who's entering his bye week. So as we kind of mentioned with the DK thing, it's always like, I love trying to target these guys that are entering their bye. You kind of get just a built-in discount, especially if it's a bad fantasy team in your league that needs a win. Jacobs was legitimately on his way to a career day in week 9. He had 102 total yards midway through the second quarter of that game. 102. And then, by no fault of his own, Jordan Love throws a terrible pick 6. The Packers go down by 2 scores. They never look back. They trail the rest of the game. And Josh Jacobs, the final 2.5 quarters of that game, has 6 total yards. He's barely used. They go pass first. Chris Brooks gets involved for some touches late in the game when it was kind of a blowout drive where the Packers score on. So everything was looking good for Josh Jacobs. He's had 5 straight games of 90-plus yards this season. He's had 7 out of his 9 games. He's hit at least 90 yards. Like, he's been producing. The touchdowns have been coming a little bit as well for him these past couple of weeks in the past month of the season. I trust in his offense. I don't think they're going to be behind by 2 to 3 scores most weeks. They won't face the Lions most weeks. Jordan Love should only get healthier heading into and then coming out of the bye week. And I think the second half of the season, you're going to have some tougher matchups for sure for the overall Packers offense, but I trust Matt LaFleur to scheme it up like he was against the Lions. The Lions are a tougher run defense to run on, and Matt LaFleur was having no problem while the game was actually in a neutral game script. So I think Jacobs is great. He currently has the 3rd most broken tackles. He's averaging 5 yards per touch. He's giving you 12-plus fantasy points in all but 1 game this year. So if you can get any sort of discount on him because he's entering the bye, coming off of a week where he didn't score a touchdown, I'd try and do that.
Yeah, he's running back 21 in points per game, which is like crazy. How?
Crazy.
4.8 yards per carry. Like he's caught 19 passes. He obviously is higher in overall points just because he's been healthy and he's been compiling. But yeah, I mean the film on Josh Jacobs is much better than the results. I maintain that. The offense overall I expect to look better coming out of the bye with Jordan Love a little healthier. So I love this. If you can get him on any sort of discount, I would definitely be interested in doing that for Josh Jacobs.